Hello everyone, this is Erik, the Asian movie enthusiast, and this is my review of Midnight, a Korean thriller from 2021. This was one of my recent blind buys, because I purchased the Blu-ray before having had a chance to watch the film beforehand, and as it turns out, I made a good decision adding this to my library. Now, during the opening scene of the film, we are introduced to the villain of the movie, a serial killer. He murders a man and then calls the cops to report it. But he's suave enough to convince them that he's simply found the dead body, Then we are introduced to our lead protagonist, a deaf girl who also has some difficulty speaking. And one night, she crosses paths with the serial killer and must survive and escape his attacks. Now, the first thing I want to point out is that this is not an especially violent movie. There's a bit of blood, and certainly some physical altercations that get intense, but this is not a blood and guts flick at all. It relies primarily on tension, similar in some ways to Midnight FM, another great thriller that has the word midnight in the title. So if you're one of those people who does not like overtly bloody or gory movies, you should be perfectly fine with this. Now, Midnight's reliance on tension is one of its greatest positives. There's a consistent feeling of suspense in this movie right from the start. The bad guy attacks multiple people before even setting his sights on our main protagonist. And after that point, the entire rest of the film is essentially one long series of attacks, manipulations, and chases. And one neat thing is that our protagonist, does not know how much noise she's making because she's deaf. And she cannot hear the bad guy when he makes noise, so she's at a disadvantage. But the script writing uses her lack of hearing and her inability to speak in many different ways to create a very entertaining cat and mouse game. It also uses technology like sound sensors that I rarely see used in movies, and it uses them very well. And these elements kind of make this a memorable viewing experience. It's a little different than just your typical thriller. Now, some of the things that happen are a bit unpredictable, and they take turns that you might not expect. There's definitely some variety here. The biggest thing that surprised me, and it's not a spoiler because it happens early on, is that going into this film, I expected it for some reason to be set in one or a few locations. It just makes it easier to write the film. You know what I mean? But it's incredibly spread out and dynamic. I mean, most of the action in this movie takes place out on the streets, in public, during the course of one evening. And I really think that adds to the entertainment value, and it adds to the creativity of what happens here. There's a foot chase scene in this that has to be one of the best in recent memory. It's just awesome. The sound design is effective. In the same scene, the sound will cut off, and then, like when it's showing things from our protagonist's perspective, and then it comes on again after that. So in some scenes, the sound is constantly shifting on and off, but it does a good job of kind of comparing what our protagonist experiences and how it compares to how people with hearing experience those same interactions. So I think it does a good job of doing that. And of course, there's a lack of jump scares, which is a huge plus. Now, in terms of performances, I love this lead actress, Ki-koo. She's fantastic in this. She's not deaf in real life, but seemed pretty convincing in the film. She exhibits a wide range of emotion as well. Like early on, she has some funny moments with coworkers and customers as part of her job. She also has this wholesome, loving relationship and interactions with her mother, who's another really good character. And then after that, she's just scared out of her mind. Later on, she has a monologue that's emotionally affecting, and she's convincing doing all of this stuff. She's great. But I've only seen her, I think, in Little Forest, the movie, where she had a supporting role. Apparently, a lot of her earlier roles were in K-dramas, which she got some awards for, so that's more stuff to add to my watch list. But now she's branching out into doing more theatrical films, so still quite new on the scene, but she's very talented. Now, Ha-joon is entertaining as the murderer. His character is mentally demented, and he really enjoys the chase as much as the kill. There's even sometimes in moments where he's intentionally inefficient just to get pleasure out of what he's doing. And he targets men and women of varying ages, so he's He's, I guess, an equal opportunity murderer. But he's also rather savvy and can manipulate people and situations to his advantage, and that makes him fun to watch. Very effective villain. You want to see him get taken down, all right? And you may have recognized this actor in his supporting role in Squid Game, as well as the lead role in Gonjiam Haunted Asylum. The other two supporting actresses are good as well, like the lady who plays the mother. I liked her too. So the acting in Midnight really kind of elevates the film, takes it to another level. The director and screenwriter here is Kwon Oh-sung. This is his theatrical debut. I wasn't even able to get information on what he did prior to this. Like, he just showed up on the map, and that's impressive, because this movie is directed very well. This guy knows how to direct. Look out for him, all right? In regard to other technical aspects, I like the way the film is lit at night. I know I mentioned this quite a bit on my channel. It's kind of an important thing for me, especially when I'm watching a movie that takes place almost entirely over the course of one evening. So you got to light it properly. And you see everything that you need to see very clearly, but there's still dark shadows around. So it's very, very nice. There's quite a bit of social commentary in this film as well. There's like a communication barrier that's present between our protagonist and other people, which is a problem in cases where she may encounter someone who could possibly help her at points in the film. But there's like this unwillingness of other people to make an effort to try to understand what her problems are and the details of her situation. And then on the other hand, there are situations where she intentionally uses and communicates in sign language because she knows that other people are completely oblivious to what she is saying. So it's a very strong theme of this movie. I think it's handled well. But that's kind of where we encounter one of this film's flaws, really like the only flaw I can think of. And that's that there are some contrivances that are used to keep things going. When in real life the situation may have been rectified sooner, the police are incompetent. Again, we see this a lot, especially in Korean cinema. They're stupid here again, guys. I don't know what to tell you. There are also situations that do stretch credibility in terms of how people would react to certain things. You know what I mean? Especially when the group of people that interact with our leads increases in number. And this is a thing that thrillers and horror movies, they need to deal with, right? But the good news is that Midnight does do a very good job of keeping the conflict going while maintaining a high entertainment value. But I think you do need to suspend your disbelief a little bit, okay? But all in all, I strongly recommend this one. It's a movie that I will be rewatching plenty of times in the future. It will be on a rotation, as I like to say. It's currently available on a Region B Blu-ray. That's the Eureka release. I assume it'll eventually get released on streaming in the US at some point, but it's worth a blind buy if you want to add it to your collection, especially if you're a fan of Korean thrillers. And as always, we will see you next time.